Good morning. Thank you all for prioritizing this versus the LL Cool J private after party last night. I appreciate it. Apparently it wasn't very good anyway, so don't worry about that. My name is Marcus Oliver, and I lead the Delta Transformation practice in Google Cloud Consulting. FinOps is obviously a core part of our practice because it's crucial for successful transformations. Cloud FinOps has become a critical capability set for anyone interested in the cloud. And like many aspects of the cloud, automation is a key part of that strategy. Today, we're going to look at FinOps automation and particularly how that can be used to drive and reinforce culture change. So there are many challenges that companies face to implement robust cloud FinOps capabilities. For example, establishing granular cost visibility, accurately budgeting and forecasting cloud costs, and deploying effective controls. But I think what companies find the most difficult challenge is to change human behavior. Whether as individuals or as teams and organizations, we all have a strong tendency to stick to customs and processes that we're familiar with. And many of us, myself included, quite frankly, change is hard. We're going to hear from some experts on how they've achieved this change. So to introduce the fantastic panel we have today, I'd like to pass the baton to my colleague, Bruce Warner, who leads the Office of the CFO practice and is also a Cloud FinOps practice lead here at Google.
Thank you, Marcus, and good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm really excited to be here today as we talk about automation and how that can be used to support a cost-aware culture and drive FinOps across the organization. So we are very fortunate to have with us today 3 leaders who have been deeply involved in their respective organizations' cloud FinOps strategies and automation initiatives. Today we have Carol, Rodrigo, and Chris. So first, let's meet Carol. Carol's the Director of Cloud Finance at Palo Alto Networks. Carol, please tell us a little bit about yourself and the FinOps journey at Palo Alto Networks.
Hi, everyone. Happy to meet you. I lead our cloud finance team at Palo Alto Networks. My team is responsible for reporting, forecasting, and planning for cloud costs, and also optimizing on the rate side, including optimizing cut coverage and negotiating with the cloud providers. We also work very closely with our engineering teams on optimizations and sharing best practices and helping them quantify the impact of some of the things that they do. In the last 5 years, we've started our migration journey to the cloud. And this started with us expanding our cybersecurity product portfolio. And now most of our products are actually hosted on the cloud. In the last 2 years, we've spent a lot of time on automating visibility and alerting. And now we are very focused on automating tooling to enable our engineers to take more action. So I look forward to sharing more, and thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you, Carol. It's really nice to have you with us today. Next, I'd like to introduce Rodrigo. So Rodrigo is a site reliability engineer and FinOps manager at Globo. Rodrigo, please tell us about your role and the FinOps journey at Globo.
Perfect. I'm glad to be here representing the awesome Globo's professionals. My mission at Globo is leading FinOps, SRE, and cloud programs. Globo is the largest media company in Latin America. It brings together open TV, paid TV channels, digital products and services for entertaining and informing almost 100 million people daily in Brazil. By 2021, we decided to partner with Google Cloud to run our workloads, accelerate innovation and our digital transformation. And we were also using different cloud providers for specific needs with non-standard processes and governance. So we decided to embrace FinOps and reaching and developing our own tools through automation to help us keep the budget under control, both technically and financially. In this journey, people and processes are also very important. We were able to work with a multifunctional FinOps team side by side with cloud users to harness the cloud spend without slowing down our cloud migration. By the way, we migrate within 18 months 400 groups of applications composed by thousands of microservices and we really were able to keep this under control. And I'm glad to be here to share with you our learnings.
That's terrific, Rodrigo, and thank you. And we're really excited to hear more today. Finally, I'd like to introduce Chris. So Chris is the Vice President of Site Reliability Engineering and Platform Services at Equifax. Chris, tell us about your role in the FinOps journey at Equifax.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here and represent all the great colleagues I have at Equifax. So my name is Chris Fry. I currently lead Reliability and Platform Services for Equifax Workforce Solutions. I've been with Equifax for more than 16 years. And for the last 3 years, I've had the pleasure of leading our local technology group on our FinOps journey. Much like my colleagues on the panel here, we're undergoing cloud transformation and cloud migration. And so we've been undergoing that journey for the last 4 years. Over the last 3 years in our FinOps journey, we've been progressing. If you're familiar with like the FinOps Foundation maturity model, we're progressing along that path, right? So we're somewhere between what I would say is walk and run. And most of the work that we've done this year has been really focused on unit cost and unit cost economics, and I'll talk more about that later. In the first year, we probably did what a lot of you all have done already, which is to tackle that low-hanging fruit and find those big expenses and cut those out. And in the second year, we really spent a lot of time on forecasting and working on shared cost allocation and accountability in our organization. We are highly collaborative across multiple technology groups and finance, right? This is, we cannot be successful without all of our partners internally in the company. Our service delivery is also highly matrixed in our organization. And thus, in order for us to be successful at controlling our costs, the entire organization has to be successful at managing those costs, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And I'm excited to share some of those learnings with you that we've learned over the last 3 years.
That's terrific, Chris, and thank you, and welcome Carol and Rodrigo. Your organizations clearly have a wealth of experience in cloud FinOps and automation, and I'm sure the audience is eager to learn more today. Now, in case you are new to cloud FinOps, let's start with some foundational concepts. First off, what exactly is cloud FinOps? Now, while the term FinOps has been around for many decades, as core finance operations processes, it takes on a whole new meaning when applied to cloud technology. Now at Google, we see cloud FinOps as merging of two core concepts. First is a governance and operational model that spans not only the finance organization, but technology and business as well, doing things such as establishing effective cost visibility, cost controls, and driving efficient use of resources, creating metrics that demonstrate the value of investment in cloud technology, and integrating with budgeting and forecasting processes as well. That is combined with a cultural change, one that drives broad organizational accountability for costs. And of course, that is an absolute key to achieving value from your investments in cloud technology and achieving the ROI that you seek on your cloud investments. So cloud FinOps addresses both highly technical considerations such as resource, pricing, and architectural optimization strategies, as well as very financial ones as well, such as the planning and forecasting process and how the business measures the P&L impact of investment in technology and the value that creates for the business. So a comprehensive FinOps strategy must address a governance model that spans traditional lines of business, leverages cloud-first principles, and uses automation strategies to scale impact. So what kind of cultural challenges are common for companies to face when they're moving to a cloud-based environment? So the approach to how legacy investments in data center technology have been managed can have a large influence. In CapEx-heavy data center environments, a sunk cost mindset can be very pervasive. Technology infrastructure, from servers to storage and networking infrastructure, well, they've been previously purchased, and ongoing consumption of those resources by engineering teams bears little to no impact on current costs. Not surprisingly, these types of environments can have limited organizational visibility to costs and related metrics. And leadership, while they may maintain a point of view that visibility to those costs should be limited to a narrow executive audience. Now compare that to a public cloud environment where consumption of cloud resources directly drives incurred costs, and you have a dramatically different environment. So whether determining architecture, sizing resources, determining the appropriate pricing model for use of cloud resources, those will all have a direct impact on incurred cloud costs. So how can companies pivot to this new model and drive that large-scale organizational change? Well, Marcus is going to share some thoughts on that.
Journeys. And at the heart of the large-scale change is a set of principles that will guide through that transformation. So cloud embodies the agile organization from a more dynamic approach to technology development to how budgeting and forecasting are approached. Fundamental to cloud is a variable consumption model that has the ability to expand and contract resources and related costs as demand varies. So this requires a new level of collaboration and partnership across IT, finance, and the business, and an accountability model where application teams are responsible for the efficiency and value realization of the resources they deploy. So finally, blamelessness is a core principle that we champion here at Google. Some would say that if an organization is not making mistakes, they're not taking enough risk. And so-called mistakes are the opportunity for everyone to learn and improve on existing processes and capabilities, and to do so in a way that focuses on the issue and not the person. So one of my favorite definitions of culture is how do people behave when no one's looking? It's the touch points, it's the core behaviors, and how teammates actually respond to them that define the company's cultures. So a key goal of FinOps capabilities is to enable their engineering teams to take action on cost by providing real-time, actionable, and insightful data. To achieve that, an organization must be open to sharing the cost data. It has to be visible. We need visibility. And that data must have a level of granularity so that engineers can quickly associate that data with the applications they're responsible for. It must be actionable. One of the other things I like most about Google is the fun, right? Making work fun. And I think that gamification of FinOps is a great way to do that. Throw out a challenge to your team so you could drive the biggest cost savings that month. See the passion and energy that can result from that. Combine that with an atmosphere where those achievements are celebrated and shared, and you'll have the groundwork to a continuous learning organization. So you'll hear from Chris a little bit around some innovative ways that they're doing at Equifax, where it's gamifying and celebrating the success. You'll hear from Carol on how Palo Alto Networks uses continuous learning and sharing. And you'll hear from Rodrigo about enabling engineers to take action at Globo. So now that we've set the context, we've set the principles and the objectives, let's dig into the details. So Carol, let's start with you. Can you share with the audience a little bit about the types of cloud FinOps automation efforts that your team has been developing, please?
Yeah, there are many ways that automation has helped us drive FinOps culture at Palo Alto Networks. First, we automated visibility and alerting. For example, we aggregated cloud costs across our cloud providers into one standardized dashboard, and we automated the cost allocations. So now this enables our companies to speak one language when it comes to cloud costs across cloud providers, and it provides one place for the business leaders to go to see their cloud costs real time. We also built some Slack alerting where it can alert on anomaly and budgets, and that helps business leaders remediate earlier. More recently, we've been starting to automate execution as well. For example, we've built tooling to automate our cut purchases, and also Slack alerting where engineers can click a button and shut off idle instances. We are also now experimenting with doing advanced analytics or predictive analytics to see if they could do a better job on forecasting and also on cut coverage recommendations. So maybe let me share a few examples. So the first thing we did was we standardized our cost definitions to help drive functional accountability. So what we did is across the cloud providers, we had the same set of cost definitions, as you see here, and we broke down the build cost into cost components where engineering teams have control over and cost components where a finance team has cost control over. This is all now automated, and it provides better accountability and visibility.
You started to create that framework. I imagine it created some tension in the organization. What did that process look like? How did it work as far as getting everybody on the same table and in agreement on how costs should be allocated?
Definitely. Change is never easy, as you mentioned. So when we first came up with the framework, a lot of people that we worked with, especially on the product teams, were like, this is not the cost that I've seen, and why is it this way? And so I think it was definitely a process, an educational process. So we did go team by team. We showed them how our costs mapped to their costs so they understood where the differences were. And we explained to them the reason why we need some standardized definition. Otherwise, we wouldn't be speaking one language at the company. So I think it definitely takes time for the cultural shift, but I think with education and clarity on the objective of why we're doing this, we were able to get them on board.
Sounds like it takes a good dose of time, patience, and collaboration to get there.
Let me share you another example. So here is a dashboard that we built for the engineering teams. This is an engineering use case. So in this example for GKE resource, we show the configuration. So first, the engineering teams need to understand the current configuration, also the utilization of the resource, and also what is the cost impact of different recommended actions that they could take. And I think we did this for both CPU and memory. And this is a real-time, automated visibility dashboard for the engineers. And I think this really helps enable them to take action, know, what's the configuration, and then what is the impact on savings of some of the actions that's recommended to them.
Common shared resource in many organizations, and I can imagine that was also a bit of a change and a shift for the engineering teams to think about their respective costs. So can you share a little bit with us their reaction when you first deployed this type of dashboard?
Yeah, when our central engineering team first showed them this dashboard and similar other tools similar for other resources, I think the first reactions was the engineers were actually very grateful. They were very grateful that actually they finally had visibility, because I think a lot of people want to do what's right. They just don't know, and with all the cloud costs and all the priorities the engineering teams deal with, we want to make it easy for them. We want to make it visible and easy for them to know what to do and what is the impact, and help them prioritize their actions. So I think this actually, they've been very happy and grateful to embrace, and now it's all about figuring out their prioritization and how does this compare to some new feature they may be building. And I think that's where helping to quantify the impact really helps them on the prioritization part.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Carol. And next we're going to hear from Rodrigo about some of the efforts that he's leading at Globo.
Hi. Sorry. We focused first on organizational alignment and visibility. By automation, we ensured that every cloud expenditure had an assigned manager and team responsible for that cost. So with this visibility, we bring budget, spending, shared cost allocations, and optimizations opportunities to managers and technical teams also. This helped managers understand their own costs, and really technical teams explore available opportunities to improve efficiency. In that moment, we also help the POs understand how to forecast their costs and to meet business demand, and also to keep everything under control. They look at dashboards and work on efficiency. What were really good in our situation, this kind of discussion recently is part of important KPIs for value streams areas. So this also brings collaboration to the table and help empower FinOps adoption at our company. So after ensuring visibility, we worked on organizational alignment. After ensuring visibility, we worked in parallel on efficiency and alerts, as well as providing APIs for allocating shared data. Let's talk about efficiency. We can automatically identify and manage scale using standard Google Kubernetes functionalities through our own pass called Tsuru. However, applications can, at Tsuru, must also handle sudden spikes in demands, with more than 20 times higher than the normal peak in less than 1 minute in our case, because we work in a media company and we have access based on breaking news and also reality TV show moments. In these situations, the standard auto-scaling waiting times doesn't work, and it's not sufficient. And we had to combine different techniques to avoid performance issues and also waste. Our solution was to pre-warm our environments using programmatic scaling based on time windows as we defined as flags. This works well when we understand the possible time interval that we may receive the large amount of traffic. We are also exploring new ways to improve efficiency using machine learning. With these insights, we are trying to predict the demand and scale environments in advance. It is still helping us to find a good balance between efficiency and resiliency. These last two groups of capabilities helped us to break down silos between teams and create new ways to explore opportunities to improve efficiency and work together in innovative ways to save money. Here you can see our overall high-level design. Our environment is designed to ensure that projects are created in the cloud using Omni API. We are a multi-cloud environment, and we have to ensure that when we create a project, we really know who is the owner. These platforms ensures the projects inside have the right architecture standards, security requirements, and governance as default. Omni API is integrated with our ITSM system too, and also with ERP. We unify the way we collect the billing data into a standard raw data set where we use to allocate shared costs and work with APIs to really share with the teams their data. We also receive key performance indicators from Google Kubernetes to provide recommendations. Golden signs as an example for bin packing, comparing usage with the actual provisioning size. So these recommendations help us to drive efficiency also. BI tools are used to spread information to different personas inside Globo, and we have a way to receive new forecasts from the teams, and also to reallocate costs when someone figured that is not responsible for that costs.
So, Rodrigo, in what ways has this automation strategy really impacted the Globo organization? Can you talk about some of the results, some of the impact that you've been seeing?
Yeah, automation has helped us to create a consistent data allocation. That is very important. And techniques to start balancing the efficiency with resiliency, because we need to keep the applications running even if we have a large amount of access. So it's a hard work, but we are doing well. And let's talk about the results. We successfully kept our budget under control in 2022 in a year of a migration with less than 1% of variation. This was to the accountability we created with data and also with the techniques we could share with the company, showing them indicators that drive the opportunities for efficiency also.
Thank you, Rodrigo. These performance statistics are a strong indication of the progress your organization's been made, particularly in a highly dynamic media-based environment. So congrats to the team on the excellent work. Next, we're going to hear from Chris, who's going to talk about the experience at Equifax.
Hey, thank you. So one of the first things I'm going to talk about here is something that Marcus mentioned earlier related to culture. We recognize and reward our run rate reductions or other efficiencies. So in our centralized team, probably like in a lot of your centralized teams, you often identify the inefficiencies and you ask product teams or engineers to take action. But of course we do the same thing, but we don't do all of that, right? We expect that our product teams are finding those inefficiencies and fixing them without even our input. But we do want to recognize and reward that. So we have those engineers and those teams record those savings and those wins, and we just do that through like a Google form that even records that in a sheet, and then our central team will go back and validate at month end that those savings are actually achieved. And then by recognition, we have several calls, but we have a monthly meetup with all of the stakeholders related to FinOps and our products, and we call out the top 2 winners from like the last month on those run rate reductions and those efficiencies, and we also give them rewards in our internal Bravo point system. So that's one way that we kind of like crowdsource and we get everybody engaged in saving. The second thing that's similar is forecast accuracy is very important to us and very important to our finance partners. So we look at actuals to forecast, and then in the same way, we reward the people who have the closest actuals to forecast, right? I mean, that's very, very important to us. The other thing just related to forecast is as we've progressed through this journey over time, we found that forecasting does take a good bit of effort from our teams. Initially, it was a lot of plugging numbers into spreadsheets. And we're now exploring ways to automate that, to produce those forecasts centrally and to save some time. The second thing that I want to mention on here is moving from anomaly detection to alerts to actions. So this is just maybe an example to walk you all through. So logging can be a large source of cost in the cloud. I think you all probably know that. And oftentimes you might have an engineering team that leaves on debug level logging, where they run some sort of large load test and that generates thousands or tens of thousands of dollars of logs. So we all, in the initial stages, you find that through anomaly detection, right? You might see that the next day, or you might see that the next week whenever you get the large bill. Right, so what we've done is, in that particular example, right, you pivot from anomalies to looking for what's actually the signal, and alerting on it, right? So we will set up, through automation for all of our containerized workloads, alerts around log volume. So think about like 10 megabytes per second over 10 minutes, right? So if you cross that threshold, then we deliver alerts to our platform team and to our product teams to say, hey, there's a problem, right? And so that's something that we've done through automation that just comes out of the box in our platforms. But we'll take that even one step further now, and what we will do is we'll automate deletion of the workload in non-production environments when it triggers that alert, right? Because even 1 hour or 2 hours of excessive logging does cost us quite a bit of money. And the third thing I want to talk about here is that we have a highly matrixed organization, I mentioned that earlier, with a lot of interdependence between services. And we can't deliver cost-effective services without the support of the rest of the organization. And so we centrally collect cost and also unit data, and we do that in BigQuery. And this allows us to illustrate the cost to deliver our products and how they're built from multiple services with multiple responsible parties. And then that transparency allows our team and our product teams to focus on the most important areas when it comes to reducing costs. This enables, say, a dependent organization to not just see the cost that they charge back to us as like one large bucket of whatever that dollar amount is for a service they might provide, like billing or authentication, but it allows them to see how that breaks down into the actual delivery of the product. So this next slide will illustrate this capability. So this is a mock-up here of a visualization in Looker Studio off of data that's in BigQuery. Just to explain some of the data a bit, it's the unit cost breakdown for a product graphed over the month. So the y-axis is like a total spend in dollars. The y-axis on the right is the unit cost, and the unit cost is also represented by that black line. So the stack bars here show the different components that make up the shared cost. So like the black bar might be the direct cost that a product team controls about the production of the unit. And the other bars might represent up other shared services that we get from other parts of the organization. So like I mentioned earlier, that could be something like authentication or billing, right? So a view like this enables all the teams to understand where to apply focus in run rate reduction efforts.
So that's quite a journey you've been driving, Chris. I'm curious, did you experience any pushback or resistance across the organization as you drove these efforts? And if you did, how did you approach dealing with that?
Sure, that's a great question. Of course, there is pushback across the organization. Whenever we're looking into the areas that are driving cost, right, especially when they're outside of our organization, the other organizations don't like outsiders necessarily coming in and surveying and telling them how they're running their operation and how things are too expensive, right? So there's a natural human friction there whenever that happens. But we have to get past that, right? We have to be collaborative because ultimately you can see the cost to produce the goods that we sell, made up in that graph. And often then what you will see in the organization as you make this journey, as everybody transitions to this model, suddenly you will have finance partners coming to your organization with their hand out saying, hey, you owe us this money for this monthly bill, where it was, it was previously, as Bruce mentioned earlier, it was all cost that maybe was never seen. So here's just maybe 3 things about how we can overcome that. Have transparency in the costs, like shown here, right? It becomes everybody's scorecard, right? The cost to produce the unit is everybody's business and everybody's responsibility in the organization. Discuss units, right? And discuss unit costs. So contrast these 2 statements. If I say, I don't know, let's say $200,000 a month is too much for authentication. Does that sound as good as if I say something like $4 is too much for a login, right? So contrast those 2 statements when you're working with your stakeholders. If you can break it down into something that's more meaningful, that helps. And third, maybe it would help us to establish a chargeback policy. So something as simple as an agreement to do like a showback for 1 month before a chargeback comes really helps reduce the friction, because no one likes to show up, no one likes to receive an unexpected bill from another partner, right? And you don't even have a chance to understand the bill or understand the unit costs or understand like how to help them optimize that charge as they're coming to you. So have them come first for a month to show and explain the cost before it actually maybe is a true chargeback in the next month.
Have one final question, I think, for you all. So for each of you, can you share one piece of guidance that you can provide for the audience as they begin their journeys? Carol.
Okay. So I would say, automation, visibility, and tooling is just the first step. To really get adoption of a FinOps culture, I think it requires 1, executive sponsorship. This is a cultural change. It can't happen without executive sponsorship. And the second is, I would say, have a strong FinOps leader that can influence without control, without direct control. So they need to be able to do the right stakeholder management position the right way. And so have a FinOps leader that has that capability.
Yeah, data drives behavior, accountability, and also awareness. Efficiency is the consequence. But success depends on how you care for and support your team in their daily based decisions. As a FinOps practitioner, we need to bring collaboration to the table, not judgment. So also be transparent in every cost allocation decision, because it can really impact the way you treat your people inside. And adapt things when necessary, because cloud is evolving and processes needs to evolve as well.
Echoing similar sentiments here, FinOps is a multidisciplinary journey. If you're in technology, like I am, make sure you have a good finance partner and a good sourcing or purchasing partner, right? Show and share the data and have clear targets, and then reach across organization lines to help achieve the results that are most impactful to the business.
Great, thank you all very much. Very interesting insights. So we have some time for some Q&A. So if you've got questions, feel free to line up at the mic. And while we're waiting for any questions to queue up, just a quick question, like what's next? Where are you all going next based upon your significant, Carol, what's next on the horizon at Palo Alto?
For us, it's the adoption of, so we have a lot of visibility and tooling and great visibility now. Now it's to engage the team by team, change the culture. You need to educate them and work with the product team. So we're in the process of going team by team. It'll take some time.
Fantastic. All right, I see we got some a line at the mic. So first question.
Question for Carol. You demonstrated a dashboard where you had GKE costs, underutilized, overutilized CPU costs, etc. So was that dashboard out of box, or you had to do some engineering changes to get that?
No, it was not. Actually, a lot of the tooling is built in-house. And we did evaluate all vendors. I think for us, a few considerations. One is the amount of cloud spend we have, it'd be too expensive, the vendor. Secondly, it's unique. Like each of your environments, products, the way that it works is very unique. So I think it worked better for us to customize it for our internal needs.
Thank you. Another product feature request for Google is association of labels and costing reports. For example, if you look at AWS, there are tags, and you can run custom reports based on just tags, department, business unit, applications, app owners, whichever way. And ours is a global organization, and inability to run those fine detailed reports just based on labels is just limiting us.
Yes, so we're aware of that. Historically, Google has invested in label-based architecture. We're now pivoting to tagging as the strategic capability. We have a very close partnership with our billing and cost management product team, which has a robust product pipeline to introduce those capabilities across the product suite. So stay tuned, that's coming. We understand the need, and we're driving development there.
Thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. Next question.
Hi, I'm Prashant Devi. I work for One by Toyota. So thank you, all the panelists. It was a great insight today. So my question is to Rodrigo. So the architecture that you have shown, it looks great, fantastic. So do you guys use any tooling apart from what is natively available in the cloud providers for the multi-cloud cost visibility as well as Kubernetes cost visibility? That's my first question. And the second one is the data feed that you have shown, is it a kind of daily feed or is it a kind of monthly? And what you do with the app sheets and that piece, which is not very clear in the description. Yeah.
We choose to build our own tools because when we figured that we would migrate a huge amount of workloads to the cloud, the way the solutions to manage cloud costs were based on a fee of our total cost. So the better way to us to address this challenge really was building our own tools. And we use the Google functionalities with BigQuery, Scheduler, Cloud Run to code our applications and really work on that situation to bring this solution to work. And the second question, about the timing we receive the data. We receive the data as the cloud providers enable it to be imported. So in a daily basis, we show all of our data with the consistency about the yesterday day, you know. So this way we treat this challenge.
And the app sheets and the top part of the architecture, that was not very clear. So maybe I can connect you offline.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Let's talk.
Hey, I'm also curious about the tags and labels. Like when you have multiple resources, multiple teams, and maybe even multiple projects under different organizations, is there a way for you to check if, or impose some kind of tagging syntax or process to actually check if certain resources are not tagged or labeled?
Yes, we can address that in a offline conversation here on the side afterwards. So if you hang around for a few minutes, happy to address that.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, good morning. I noticed on a couple of slides you mentioned rewards and gamification. So maybe a two-part question, if you could elaborate on that or some examples. And the second part is, how manual or automated is that process of issuing rewards or really, your gamification?
Yeah, so I'll just briefly kind of cover again, and we can always talk offline too. So I would say that we are all of the tooling to gather the data around analyzing the rewards and of that, right? That's all automated, but we still have a human kind of in place to analyze it. There's a lot of factors that go into who you might select as like winner in a particular month, right? Because oftentimes you can't necessarily go by absolute dollar, you might go by percentage. But that's our ask to the organization to basically pursue run rate reductions or cost efficiencies and to find sort of the biggest savings they can find. We're also exploring some other areas where we might try smaller games, like it might be a find all the reductions you can get in non-production, right? Or who can have the lowest cost running over the weekend. So we're thinking about other games that we can introduce, but we just haven't done that yet.
And the aim is obviously to bring visibility to that, right? The organization needs to see that for it to be effective and work, so yeah.
Yeah, you have to make sure that everybody plays the game, right? And the rewards are, everybody sees the winners.
All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Shri from MX. This is a question to the panelists. So in one of the diagrams, you showed that how the raw data from multi-cloud is getting normalized. And at the far right, I did see for dashboard view, you had used Looker. So was there any specific reason, or what were the key considerations for you to use Looker as opposed to other cost management tools? Was there any specific reason?
Yes, as a Google user, Looker provides us a way to easily manage the data we can provide for the teams in a way they can create their own views also. So we broadly use Looker in our company. Because of that, we choose to keep using this tool to share the informations.
Okay, much easier to customize and
yes.
to get customized.
Yes, in our case.
Thank you.
And I'll say in our case too, we need a lot of customizations. There's a lot of different stakeholders and there's a lot of different financial data. So I think we've just naturally moved towards building our own visibility to get what we want. I don't think that there's not a single off-the-shelf solution that captures all of the needs.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Ryan with Tropic Technologies, and I had a question for Chris. In regard to the gamification of cost reduction and for run rate reductions, are you differentiating between cost avoidance versus cost reduction? In the case where you did right sizing versus we deployed a well-sized instance at first?
So we do differentiate between that, and that's part of the analysis that happens month over month when we're reviewing. But I guess one of the things that we have to be careful about is I think we're typically looking at those run rate reductions versus cost avoidance, where we're not necessarily analyzing a team who said like, hey, you deployed the right size instance when you started. I don't know that we necessarily have a game for that. We're probably more gaming that around our forecast and our accuracy, right? So if you've planned well through the budgeting process and you know how many cores you were going to use and you know how big your database is, you've built an accurate budget and an accurate forecast, and then when your actuals fall in line with that, then that helps. But yeah, you do run into some things where you may be thinking that somebody might just over-provision intentionally to win the game. But frankly, we're all too busy for that, right? So, but I get, we do have those conversations, and really they're just honest mistakes when that happens.
Got it. So it sounds like two different games. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Ron Curley with Shipped. Imagine a non-hypothetical company that has got all the data that it needs by accident in some respects, just due to its CI/CD pipeline, but has no internal drive in the company to dedicate engineers to building out what we already have. The attribution is there, the showback is there, the segregation and all of that. But there's no drive to get more engineers to dedicate any more time. Any feedback?
I can try to take that. We also struggled with that at the beginning. And one of the things is that One is the executives need to see the benefit and impact that this would have. So one of the first things we did is we improved our CUD coverage, because that's easier to do. And finance, that's something I have control over. So by increasing our CUD coverage, we were able to realize tangible and sizable savings. And so I can show my execs, say, if I just had one person that looked at this regularly, and I had the dashboard and visibility, this is how much money I could save. And I think it makes it a little bit more real for them. I think finance is also generally a good partner for that, because there's always a piece of margin, profitability management, and I think that can often be a driver to say, well, what is the ROI and why this should be a worthwhile investment.
It is super critical to have senior leader sponsorship and support, especially across technology and finance and the business. So we strongly advocate for a governance model where you have a steerco function that's overseeing FinOps, that's got representation from your CIO, CFO, business leads, and when leadership gets together and as a team drives this, that models the behaviors and models the change and the transformation for the organization. So it's super, super critical to have senior leadership actively driving the transformation.
Thank you.
So I think that's all the time we have. We'll be on the side here for further questions. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you all.
There are several additional FinOps sessions today, and enjoy. Thank you.